At ETM Flipping Science, we're looking at autotrophs, heterotrophs, and photosynthesis. So science understanding we're going to look at: cells require energy. The sources of energy are light for autotrophs and chemicals for heterotrophs. And we're also going to look at photosynthesis, and you need to write word equations for photosynthesis. So in biology we like breaking up organisms into groups, and here's another two big groups of organisms. So there's the autotrophs, which get their energy from the sun, and the heterotrophs, which get their energy from eating other organisms. So autotrophs are your plants, so they take in energy from the sun. They use that to make the sugar, and then they break down sugar. So down here we've got some trees, they're autotrophs. Heterotrophs are what you are, so you have to eat other organisms in order to get your energy. So here we have the giraffe eating the plant, so it's eating the plant to get the sugar that this plant has made from the sun. Down here we have a lion attacking a water buffalo. Same idea, so the lion is getting its energy from the water buffalo gets its energy from plants, so it eats plants. So that's the difference between them. The way that the animals get their energy is by breaking down the chemicals that they take in. Over here we have a sea slug that does something that's a bit interesting. So that sea slug, you can kind of see the head of the sea slug there, it eats algae, and then it can strip the chloroplast out of the algae and place it in its body. Now it was originally thought that it did that so that it could do photosynthesis with those chloroplasts. So it's an animal that's doing photosynthesis by taking in the chloroplasts. But since these guys were discovered and studied a bit more, they found that they just kind of store the chloroplasts as food and then break them down later, so they can't get the energy out of them. So otherwise it would have been very, very cool. So why do you need energy? The reason why we as heterotrophs eat food is to get energy, and we use that energy for lots of different things. So for movement, for growth and repair, for reproduction, and to maintain our cells. So we need energy to do that because without energy, those things don't happen by themselves. So today we're going to start by looking at photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the process that autotrophs use to use sunlight to make sugars that then they can break down later on. So light energy comes into the plant, in this case. Carbon dioxide and water are the chemicals that are involved. The light energy breaks up the carbon dioxide and water and produces sugar, and as a product you get oxygen. And oxygen is important because that's what we breathe. So photosynthesis is the basis of almost all life processes on Earth. There are some weird organisms that don't have photosynthesis in their food chain, but generally speaking most do. So pretty much everything either is a plant, eats plants, or eats something that eats plants. That's going to cover most of the organisms on Earth. The reason that is the plants generate the sugar, the other organisms eat the plants to get the sugar, and then other organisms eat those organisms to get their sugar. And it just passes through food chains like that. So like I said, photosynthesis, it uses energy from the sun to make sugar in plants. We're going to focus on plants. It does happen in other organisms, but we're just going to look at plants because they're the easiest ones to talk about. The oxygen that we have in the atmosphere is a result of photosynthesis. The early Earth didn't have much oxygen, and when the evolution of photosynthesis came around, it caused a bit of a hassle because the increase in oxygen concentration killed off an awful lot of organisms. Oxygen is quite toxic, and the organisms weren't ready for the oxygen, so one of the great extinctions on Earth is thought to be linked to the evolution of photosynthesis. So today we're going to focus on plants, which are eukaryotic organisms, but photosynthesis can occur in prokaryotic organisms as well. They just happen in different places. So in prokaryotic organisms, the photosynthesis happens in the cytoplasm of the cell, just floating around. The chemicals are there ready to go, and the enzymes that do the process are ready to go too. In eukaryotic organisms, it happens in the chloroplasts of plants. So chloroplasts are these structures here. They're membrane-bound organelles, similar to mitochondria in many ways. One way is they used to be free-living bacteria, and then they merged with plant cells quite some time ago. So chloroplasts contain a pigment called chlorophyll. There are several different types of chlorophyll. Usually they're green, and I'll talk about why that is in a second. The chlorophyll is important because this is the chemical that is capturing the light energy and using that light energy to produce energy in another source, which can be used to make the sugars. So generally chlorophylls are green because they absorb light energy that's blue and red and reflect the green, so that's why they look green. This is an accident of evolution. Chlorophyll being green, that's handy in the ocean because the light wavelengths that penetrate into the ocean are kind of your very high energy blue and then some of your red. It's not as handy up on the surface. On the surface, you can get green light energy as well. It'd be great to have a black pigment almost that could absorb all the colours of the spectrum, and that would generate more energy. But that's just how evolution happened. It started in the ocean, so we get these green pigments instead. There are other pigments other than chlorophyll that can be used, and that's why you can get different coloured leaves in plants, for example. It's just the different amount of chlorophyll or different types of chlorophyll that gives you that different colour on the leaves. So here's the important bit, the equation for photosynthesis. So we've got carbon dioxide and water reacting to produce glucose and oxygen. This is essentially the reverse of the aerobic respiration formula. In the aerobic respiration formula, breaking down glucose in the presence of oxygen to produce carbon dioxide and water, this process goes the other way. So carbon dioxide from the atmosphere is absorbed into plants, water is absorbed through the roots. The energy to join these bits together to make the sugar comes from the sun, and you get your glucose and oxygen. The oxygen is this byproduct, this waste product almost, that is then emitted out into the atmosphere.